Oh, hi, I'm Marc, an art teacher, a professional artist, and today I'm going to show you how to draw anything from imagination. It's the artist's holy grail. It's what every artist wants, to be able to draw freely whatever you can imagine without using references. Obviously, nobody starts there. It's 100% achievable, but there are steps leading up to that, things to practice. And this is what we'll learn in this new episode of my ongoing weekly series, YouTube Art School. It's level up time. Let's get it. Alright, in this video, we'll take a look at some requirements first. What are the skills that you need to actually make that possible? Drawing anything from imagination. Then we'll look at the 3 levels of difficulty when it comes to drawing anything from imagination. So level 1, easy mode, to then advanced mode, and then hardcore mode. Oh, but first I'm going to have to ask you to pay the fee to keep watching the video, which is just to color the like button blue by clicking on it. I'll wait for you. Well done. Let's keep going. All right, requirement time. So the first requirement will be to be able to draw basic geometric volumes in perspective. Requirement 2 will be to get good at placing those same volumes in space in relation to other volumes. Now, this is harder than it sounds, like most things in art, and I don't have hours to explain this like I usually do with my students, because longer videos here on YouTube get no views. But even though I won't cover everything in detail, it should still be plenty to get you started on the right path. And that's already going to be a huge advantage compared to other artists. And you get it for free as a subscriber to the channel. Now, to draw volumes in space will obviously require that you have some sort of perspective knowledge. It's important that you understand 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective, and that you can draw basic volumes in any of those 3. If your volume drawing skills are not quite there yet, one thing that you can practice is to draw simple boxes in perspective and then stack them on top of one another. And then from that, you can also extrude some parts, pull some shapes out. That's harder. You can also increase difficulty even more by starting with a big container box, and then within that, drawing a smaller box from which you have a bunch of big pipes kind of sticking out of, making sure that those pipes have visible subdivisions and that they make sense, that they all connect properly. When you can do that well, or if you can already do that well, congratulations, you're already level 1 when it comes to drawing anything from imagination. Now, I'll be drawing a head today, but real quick, before I do that, I want to show you the power of stacking boxes and just how much you can do with that. On the right here, we have just like a simple stack, but what if we try to draw a full character? Level 1 might be something like that. Super simple, right? Another stack of boxes, but by introducing cylinders now and by arranging the boxes a little differently, we get a rough mannequin. That is the power of geometric shapes right there. All right, as I said, I'll be drawing a head today in the 3 different levels. Of course, starting with level 1, because when learning to draw anything from imagination, that's the starting point. That's where you begin. Now, it doesn't have to be a head. It could be anything else, really. The same logic would still apply. For example, if I were drawing a full body or drawing something more complex like an engine or a building, whatever. All the same, we're going to be using simple geometric volumes. Let's go. All right, so first, let's start with a box. And this is level 1, so it's going to be pretty easy. We're not going to be deforming the boxes much at all. And so at this level, you're really just getting real good at stacking boxes. So we can start by maybe like rounding out this box here to give it like a rounder shape. Here at the bottom, we're going to add a cylinder for the neck, something like that. So the front of it would be that right here. And then the rest of that box, can split that in half as well. So if you'll notice, I have a lot of different cuts in my shapes. Basically anything that you can use to help situate your lines in space. Now, obviously this doesn't look too much like a face, but let's add some eyes on here. Maybe on a separate layer. There we go. 1 eye, 2 eye. I'm just gonna draw a line for where the eyebrows would be, the nose, and the mouth. And just like that, we have a cube person. Of course, the face feels a little flat here, but If we consider that the eyes are usually resting in their sockets a little deeper in the face, we can push those back here. Boink. And then we can just fine tune the line here for the nose, add some eyebrows. But yeah, this is level 1 right here. So basically just a slightly more detailed geometric shape. But I would consider this here level 1 as well. Now you might be looking at this and thinking to yourself, well, this character doesn't even have ears. Well, you can figure this out. So let's try to find like the center here on the side of the face. X marks the spot, and then we can line them up with the top of the eyes here. And so maybe we would end up with a square like this. Then we can then extrude a little bit from behind there, give the back here a little thickness, so that we're left with this, kind of like triangular prism. And there we have it. Level 1 done. Now, here's the tricky part. How do we go from level 1 to level 2? What's required? How do you get the necessary XP points? Well, it's going to be 2 different things. First one, learn some theory. Not any theory, the theory about what you're trying to draw. Usually the theory will be the kind of stuff where you learn how to construct in a little bit more details than for level 1. It's what I like to call the recipe. So basically trying to learn the recipe for drawing heads. And then of course, supplementing that with a ton of references. If we were practicing drawing hands, it would be how to construct a hand and looking at hand references. But in my case today, drawing a head, I'll just want to follow the typical head construction method. I show how to do all of that in my program, but I also do show a little bit in a video that I made not too long ago showing how to draw faces. So you can have a look at that if you're interested in that particular recipe. But yeah, this is what level 2 would look like. So obviously a lot more detailed already. Boxman is gone and he's been replaced by a simple head construction that I'm now able to do because I've practiced this a bunch, first drawing the level 1 in many different angles, in all kinds of perspectives, then learning some theory, and improving my visual library with a bunch of relevant references. Practice, 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 and now you're level 2. Now to go from here and level up to level 3 is going to be the biggest jump yet, but it's still somewhat more of the same because we're still looking to improve our visual library. That's the part that makes this possible at all. For level 1, you need a very limited visual library. If you know what a box and a cylinder look like, you're all set. You're clearing the requirements. For level 2, your visual library needs to include also how to construct the thing that you're trying to draw and already have a little bit more knowledge about the real structure and in this case, the anatomy of the body part. To make the jump to level 3, it'll just include a bunch of portrait drawings from reference, of course, always from reference. Every time you use a reference to study, you learn something new. You add something new to your visual library. And so it's just a matter of doing that a ton more, learning what the different facial features look like in a bunch of different angles, the differences maybe between male and females, different races perhaps, the structure of the skull, all the different muscles in the face, where the folds happen, or where you find the wrinkles in the skin, all that stuff. And since we have the base already, I have my construction. Well, now all I have to do is still following the same box, following the same perspective. I'm just gonna go ahead and add details basically, enhance my construction. Now here you see me start from the face, but of course it's only because I have the construction right next to it. As you can see, I'm following all the same lines. So nothing new here. It's all the same foundation, I'm just adding on to it. That includes the eyelids, above the eyeballs, the lower eyelids, a little bit of shading there, temples, a little bit of wrinkles. I'm gonna be drawing some guy that's a little older, maybe in his mid 40s, something like that. Doesn't have his baby skin anymore. Now, of course, I think this goes without saying, but I'm just, I just want to make sure. But if I hadn't constructed my drawing first, that's what I would be doing right now. Unfortunately, I'm not Kim Jong-gi, and I can't yet at least see all that stuff in my head. So, but yeah, by the way, the main difference, between him, Kim Jong-gi, the master, and us mortals is that his visual library is insanely massive. So basically, he's done the same process here. What I'm teaching is nothing new. I feel like most experienced artists that also teach will kind of naturally default to this way of explaining things because it makes the most sense. And in his case, he's just gone through these same steps so many times for so many different things, grinding that experience in between, expanding his visual library over and over and over again. That stuff just gets easy. Not for me, unfortunately. Maybe one day. Probably not. And now real quick, I'm going to be adding some hair to this character here because I like him bald, but I've already drawn 2 bald characters, so let's switch it up a little bit. Nice, old school 80s hairstyle. But yeah, that is my level 3 right here. But yeah, there you have it. This is the process. This is how you're able to draw anything from imagination. Of course, the fine print here is that you have to do this process for everything new that you're trying to draw from imagination. So at the beginning, probably it's going to be a little bit limited, but as you repeat this process over and over again, drawing multiple different things, as you do, your visual library will improve. You'll be able to level up more of the different types of drawings that you like. And once again, I did this for one head, but the same process would still apply for bodies, for vehicles, for buildings, for props, for anything. This is how you learn to draw anything from imagination. So yeah, anyways, I hope you like the drawing. Kind of looks like me, except not as dashing. That is going to be it for this week's tutorial. I hope this was helpful. And of course, if you want to use the same brush that I've been using here, if you thought that it was just the best, because it is, you can get my brush pack for absolutely free in the top right corner of the screen right here, and down in the description below. Now, I do hope that you will join us next week for another episode of the YouTube Art School. Maybe tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your dog, and also make sure that you practice the stuff right here. This is the most important. If you can do this, you will be well on your way to drawing absolutely anything from imagination. Oh, and next week I'm going to be showing a couple of the entries for my Do It In Your Style challenge that I announced in last week's video, so make sure that you check that out if you haven't already. You still got another week, and so far the entries have been awesome. So I'm really looking forward to showing you what that turned into. So make sure that you don't miss. Now you know.